If your plan matches per paycheck and you stop contributing early, you can lose employer match for the remaining paychecks. Most people never notice it until the year is over, and by then, the opportunity is gone. That is why you need to understand one rule that quietly changes the result: the difference between a paycheck match and a true-up. In this video, I will explain match versus true-up in plain language, why contribution timing matters, the most common timing patterns that reduce match, and a practical checklist you can use to protect what you are eligible to receive. Comment true-up if you want the checklist pinned. I'm Alex from Wealth Architect, where we build wealth with mechanics, not hype. Let's start with clean definitions, because confusion usually begins with one assumption. People assume the match is automatic and always calculated the same way. It is not. A 401k match is an employer contribution that is usually based on a formula. The formula often sounds like this: the employer matches a percentage of what you contribute up to a certain percentage of your pay. For example, an employer might match 50% of your contributions up to 6% of pay. That is a very common structure. But here is the detail that changes everything. The plan also defines when that match is calculated. Some plans calculate the match each paycheck. In other words, each paycheck has its own match cap. Other plans reconcile the match later using a process called a true-up. And some plans use a mix of both, where the match is applied each paycheck and then adjusted later. So in real life, there are two layers: the formula and the schedule. The formula tells you what the match could be. The schedule determines whether you actually receive it paycheck by paycheck across the year. Now let's define these two terms clearly. A paycheck match means the plan looks at each payroll period separately. If the plan matches up to 6% of pay, then that 6% cap applies on every paycheck. If you contribute below the cap on a paycheck, you typically receive less match for that paycheck. If you contribute nothing on a paycheck, you typically receive no match on that paycheck. A true-up is a later reconciliation. Usually, after the plan year ends, the plan compares what you received in employer match during the year with what you would have received under the plan's rules based on your eligible compensation and your total contributions. If the plan determines you should have received more match than you did, it may add an additional employer contribution to true up the difference. The purpose of a true-up is to reduce the impact of uneven contribution timing. But not every plan offers it. And even when a plan offers it, there can be conditions. So the practical question you need to answer is simple. Does your plan calculate match per paycheck? And if so, does it true up later and under what conditions? Now let's talk about why timing matters. If you contribute a steady percentage from every paycheck throughout the year, many people are fine under a paycheck match system. The match cap is applied each pay period and you consistently meet it. That is the straightforward path. The timing problem appears when your contributions are uneven. There are three common patterns that create uneven contributions, and each one can change your match outcome depending on plan rules. Pattern 1 is contributing too little early in the year and trying to catch up later. Pattern 2 is front-loading, meaning you contribute very aggressively early, reach the annual employee limit, and then your payroll contributions stop before the year ends. Pattern 3 is irregular pay, such as large bonuses, commissions, or switching jobs within the year where your contribution rate or eligible compensation changes. All three patterns are common. None of them automatically means you did something wrong. The issue is whether your plan's match schedule rewards consistency or requires it. Here is the core risk in one sentence. If your plan matches per paycheck and you stop contributing before the year ends, you may receive zero match on the remaining paychecks because you are no longer contributing on those paychecks. And if your plan does not true up, or if you do not meet the true up conditions, those missed paycheck matches may not be recovered. That is the mechanical reason the free money language can be misleading. It is only free if you follow the plan's rules. Now I will keep the math light because you do not need detailed calculations to understand the mechanics. Imagine your plan matches up to 6% per paycheck. If you contribute at least 6% on each paycheck, you generally qualify for the maximum match on each paycheck. If you contribute 2% on each paycheck, you generally qualify for less match on each paycheck. If you contribute 0 on later paychecks, Because you hit the annual limit early, you generally qualify for zero match on those later paychecks. That is how a paycheck match system works. Now let's contrast that with true-up logic. With a true-up, the plan may correct for uneven timing. So if you front-load contributions and then stop contributing later, the plan may still award additional match after year-end based on your annual eligible pay and your annual contributions. But here is the warning you cannot ignore. A true-up is not guaranteed, and it is not always unconditional. Some plans require you to still be employed on the last day of the plan year to receive certain employer contributions, including a true-up. Some plans require you to be employed on the date the true-up is processed. Some plans process true-up contributions months after year-end. And some plans define eligibility in ways that can exclude people who leave mid-year. This is why you should not rely on true-up unless you confirm it in writing in your plan documents. Now let's walk through a simple scenario with no complicated math, just clean logic. Scenario 1 is the steady contributor. You contribute enough each paycheck to reach the cap. Your plan matches per paycheck. Result, you receive the match consistently across the year. Scenario 2 is the front loader. You contribute a high percentage early in the year and reach the annual employee limit by late summer or early fall. Payroll contributions stop for the rest of the year. If the plan matches per paycheck and there is no true-up, your match stops as well. That can reduce the employer match you receive for the year because several paychecks at the end of the year have no employee contribution to match. If the plan has a true-up and you meet the conditions, the plan may add the missing match later. If the plan does not have a true-up, or if you do not meet the conditions, you may not receive what you expected. Scenario 3 is the late starter. You contribute too little for months and then raise your contribution rate later. If the plan matches per paycheck and does not true up the match you missed earlier, may not be recovered. If the plan true ups, it may be partially recovered depending on the plan's definitions. Those scenarios explain why two people with the same income working at the same company can still end up with different match outcomes. The difference is not always effort. It is often timing and plan rules. Now let's identify the single most common match-losing mistake. The most common mistake is assuming the match is calculated on an annual basis when the plan is actually applying a cap per paycheck. That assumption causes people to treat contribution timing as something they can correct later. In a paycheck match plan, later may not recover what was missed on specific paychecks. This is why the conservative approach exists. If you want to minimize the chance of missing match, contribute at least enough each paycheck to reach the match cap across the full year. This is not a performance strategy. It is a mechanics strategy. It is designed to align with paycheck-based matching rules. Now you might be thinking, so should I never front load? Not necessarily. Front loading can be reasonable in some situations, especially if your plan has a well-defined true-up and you meet the conditions. Also, some people prefer earlier investing for personal reasons. The point is that you should not front-load blindly. If you front-load without confirming true-up, you are betting your match on an assumption, and in finance assumptions are expensive. Now let's add a detail that changes outcomes for many people: bonuses. Some plans match bonus compensation. Some plans do not. Some plans match bonuses only if you contribute from the bonus itself. Some plans exclude certain types of bonuses from match eligibility. This is not the kind of thing you should guess. For example, if you receive a large bonus and you do not contribute from it, your plan may not award match on that bonus compensation. Or your plan may award match differently depending on how it defines eligible compensation. So, if your compensation includes bonuses, commissions, or irregular pay, you should confirm how the plan treats those amounts for match purposes. Now, I want to give you a fast method to verify your plan's behavior without relying on internet opinions. You do this in 3 steps. Step 1. Find your plan's summary plan. Description, often called the SPD, or the official plan documentation provided by your employer or plan provider. Step 2. Use the search function and look for these terms matching contribution match, true-up allocation, and compensation. Step 3. Answer 3 questions by reading the relevant section. Question 1. Is the match calculated each payroll period, Or is it calculated based on annual compensation? Question 2. Does the plan mention a true-up, a reconciliation, or an additional matching contribution after the end of the plan year? Question 3. Are there eligibility conditions for receiving the match or the true-up, such as being employed on a specific date? If you cannot access the SPD, ask HR where it is posted. These are standard benefit documents. You are not asking for special treatment. You are asking for the rules that control your benefits. Now let's do a quick mid-video recap, because this is where people lose the thread. So far, there are 3 pieces that decide your match outcome. 1. The match formula, like 50% up to 6%. 2. The match schedule, meaning whether the cap applies per paycheck. 3. Whether true-up exists and whether it has conditions. If you remember only one thing from this video, remember this. The match formula tells you what is possible. The schedule and true-up rules determine what actually happens. Now let's translate that into a practical checklist that you can follow. First, confirm the match formula. This tells you the cap you are trying to reach. Second, confirm the match schedule. Look for language that indicates the match is calculated each pay period, or each payroll period, or each paycheck. Third, confirm whether true-up exists. Look for true-up reconciliation or additional matching contribution after the plan year ends. Fourth, confirm the true-up conditions. Specifically, check whether you must be employed on the last day of the year or on the date the true-up is processed to receive the true-up contribution. Fifth, if you are unsure about any of those details, use the conservative contribution pattern. Contribute enough each paycheck to earn the maximum match available per paycheck for the entire year. Sixth, if you receive bonuses or irregular pay, confirm whether that compensation is match eligible and whether you need to contribute from those payments to earn match. That checklist is short on purpose. It is designed for action, not for theory. If you want the checklist pinned, comment "True Up." I will pin it at the top. Now I want to address one more question that comes up frequently. People ask, if my plan has true-up, does timing stop mattering? Timing matters less, but it still can matter in edge cases. For example, if you change jobs mid-year, if you become ineligible for part of the year, if your compensation changes, or if the plan's true-up has conditions. So even with true-up, it is still wise to understand the rule rather than assume you are protected. Now let's close with the main takeaway stated cleanly. The employer match is valuable, but it is not automatic in the way most people assume. The rule that changes the outcome is how the plan calculates match over time and whether it reconciles match later with a true-up and under what conditions. Once you confirm whether your plan matches per paycheck, whether true-up exists, and whether true-up has conditions, you can set a contribution strategy that protects the match you are eligible to receive. This content is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always review your plan documents and consider getting professional guidance for your specific situation. If this helped, watch the next video in this series on 401k fee audits, because fees are another factor that quietly changes long-term outcomes. You're watching Wealth Architect.